So my topic for this is natural disasters. I've written in a method, some of my budgeting, my experiment sort of stuff. I've written in my methods for doing some of this, the gessoing, and I tried a raw method and an oil method, which is just a decking oil, so like a linseed anti-mold oil, which I didn't leave as long. It was actually a pretty good method. I wouldn't mind doing it again, purely because I do actually like the wood grain in the wood grain in the marine ply that I bought. It's got some really lovely shapes to it, but the oil method means I'd have to leave it for about 24 hours to dry. I mean, I did leave about 3 or 4 hours and then tested it again, and some of it was dry, but some of it wasn't, and it definitely affected the paint. The parts that were actually dry did really well. The paint went on smoothly. I'd sanded it beforehand, and then I sanded it 3 times. We sort of went medium, fine, very fine, or super fine, just to get a really smooth sort of finish for the painting. And then I put the oil on, and then I left it. I was going to sort of use the fatty method with oil painting, which is a lot longer, which I'm not going to actually use for this project at all. But it went really well, actually. I sort of did this one down here, method 3, which is the oil method. The lake itself, I did a really rough, sort of quick, I think it was raw sienna, really oiled down raw sienna, oil wash over the top so I could still see everything. And the top up here had sort of dried well, so that was fine, but the middle part here didn't dry as well, and the oil actually sort of, because I was using, the wash that I used with the oil paints was a refined linseed artist oil, and on the unrefined linseed oil there was a definite sort of not mixing. Some of it mixed all right, but it was definitely more oily, sort of oil on water almost, which actually worked really well considering this was meant to be a lake in the middle. But I was doing the underwash just to see what it would be like. It didn't work very well. And then there's a horse there, which not the best sort of drawing or painting. I don't do horses all that often, but it's all right. I've got that around somewhere. I just gotta unpack it from my car probably. I'll get it in a second. I'll talk about it a bit later. The top method is the gesso method, which you can sort of see I'm already getting to the idea of what I want to do. But I also sort of sketched on top of the gesso method, which is basically 2 white layers of gesso, 2 grey layers of gesso, and then sanded afterwards to get a fine surface. Sort of like a cityscape, circumference of the beach / city, sort of Gold Coast sort of cityscape, and the water coming in was fine. And then I drew this circle thing in the left bottom hand corner, and originally that was going to be sort of like a headland, and then I realized, oh, it looks sort of like a jellyfish like that, and so now it's a jellyfish. And this one, which is the raw method, which again I got to get out of my car, so I'll show that in a second. All of them are in my car actually. I just haven't gotten everything out yet because I figured that if I've got to put it somewhere safe when it rains, it's probably better to be in the car rather than anywhere else at this point in time, because it won't fit in my room. Anyway, so this one was a raw method where I just sanded it really finely, and I sanded it, I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times, 5 or 6 times. So I started with a coarse sand rather than a medium sand block, and then I went coarse, medium, fine, very fine, super fine. just to really fine it down and sort of set the whole thing. It is a raw method, so I didn't actually do anything else to it. Sketched on what I wanted, which is using the wood grain, created some really nice effects. Put basically people, floating cars, floating car, floating branches, floating trees, floodwater, rising floodwater, or a flash flood, where people just sort of go, oh shit, there's water rising, let's get out. And then by the time they get to their car, it's already knee deep and the car's probably about to move. Not a fun thing. And then so I penciled that in, and then I basically went over with an acrylic paint pen. And so what I'll do then is that I will do a wash. Doing a wash, and then I'll do, and I'll paint over the top and see what that will be like with oil paint. So it's an acrylic wash instead of an oil paint wash, because it will dry faster, and I will probably actually use a fast drying medium for the whole project anyway. This is me talking more about what I should do. Jellyfish, squid, octopus, getting ideas down. Now that I sort of like the idea of the sort of mythical animal, well, not mythical, but the animal sort of pushing the water to rise. Then I have the octopus, and I thought that would be pretty cool with, I think that would do a lot better with a little bit like tsunami almost, rather than just floods. But we'll see. I could do it so that, on the topic of cyclones, which, by the way, I chose this topic before the cyclone formed. It just happens to be very apt right now, and I hope I don't get a lot of really good images on the news, purely because I don't want anyone to lose their property or be injured or life loss, and all that jazz. And so I actually don't hope I get some good images, even though I sort of do. I just don't want really anyone injured in all of this. But regardless, I'm thinking maybe even doing the eye of the storm sort of shining sort of here-ish, maybe a little bit off center, so you can sort of see a glistening of the animal underneath. So the way I'm going to do the animals, it's going to be really sort of almost a watermark sort of light touch to it all. So they're there, but it's very much you got to use your imagination to really sort of see them. So it's like they are the flood, they are the natural disaster. They're not. It sort of ties almost into mythology and really, really old tales about people in the stars, and how beautiful constellations are actually figures of people, even though you've got to use your imagination to actually see it. It's sort of like that, a little bit of play on effect. So I'll be using like either the silhouettes or like the textures. Some of them will be really, really visible, some of them won't be. It's to sort of, well, we'll get to that. I guess we'll get to that. And I did sketch out this one, and I actually fell in love with this pretty much immediately after I sketched it out, which is why I'm going to go with it. It's sort of like a squid, and we're seeing this as though we're standing, imagine you're standing on a headland, or a little island or something like that happens to just be very tall, and you're not actually affected. You're looking in on the disaster, and it's almost like that Greek monster I can't pronounce that Poseidon sent to kill a princess that was too beautiful. Did I get that right, or am I mixing my stories together? I think Jason, the son of Zeus, Jason, went and saved her. Yes, maybe. It might be Jason. Probably not Jason, now that I'm thinking about it. Anyway, basically, it's a little bit like that, where you're sort of looking in, and you've got like the head of the squid up here. I know these aren't eyes, these are meant to be like eddies, little whirlpool eddies sort of thing that go down, and really, really strong rips and currents underneath. They're the ones that sort of drag you down and all that. It's also meant to sort of be almost a mouth of a river, a little bit like how Bribie Island split. Again, this is sort of like, it sort of forced itself in. And again, I drew this before Bribie Island happened, and I'm really sorry for the people down there. But I'll probably end up, once all this painting's done, I'm probably going to end up auctioning it off and donating about half the proceeds to help out on the Sunshine Coast, because I live on the Sunshine Coast, but also everyone. So maybe this will get really big. But I do need also money, because I don't want to be a starving artist, which I currently am. So half the proceeds. Please be seen by lots of people. But basically a squid sort of coming in. You've got sort of two different land masses here. You've got the water sort of swirling around, which you can almost see with the tentacle, almost a tentacle like sort of coming in through and like doing the water lines and everything like that. Coming around. It's almost like it's just trying to come in and maybe attack would be a good way. And I'm choosing a giant squid, well, a squid in general, but like probably one of the more bigger squids. I actually might go for one of the more iridescent squids, actually. That might look better as a watermark. I need to get those references images up. But basically I'm coming in and you can see again city cityscapes, something like that, and the rising water lines, and I'll probably have a beautiful sunset maybe, just to be able to reflect the oranges in the water to offcast the whole thing, since a lot of this is going to be like blue and greens. So reds and oranges and yellows at the top, reflected from off the squid every now and then. Look, I like it. That's what I'm going to do for this art project. I have been looking at panoramic views, so I'm going to try and mix and match a bit. So it's not actually going to look specifically like either the Gold Coast or Bribie Island or Brisbane, but I'm going to mix and match a bit and create my own sort of cityscape. But it's just sort of like, it's a natural disaster, and what's more natural than an animal attack, I guess. I did have an idea though at one point where is it? Oh, look there. Looks a little bit like a dolphin or a manatee or something like that. I had the idea of having like little animals in among all this, but I don't think I'll end up doing that. That could work, but I really don't think it will. But yeah, this is going to be on a 9 panels, 3x3 marine ply to prevent warping, about 9mm I believe thick. Again, to prevent warping, because we do not want that at all. So currently being gessoed, since that's what I'm going to do, because it's going to be faster rather than raw, which I still want to actually work with a little bit, because I want to see what the end result would be like on wood that supposedly doesn't warp, especially with oil paints. But we will see. That can be a by the side project. Now this looks like a mess of scribbles, but I promise you it isn't. If you can see it, it's like a big giant box jellyfish there, little one there, big one there, beach line, sand line, probably sand walls or sand dunes eaten away by the water, and the water's risen, and then cityscape, and then tentacles as water lines. Again, that was just sort of an idea, but I preferred the squid. I don't know why. I really do like it. More notes. Got to do some weekly feedback stuff, which is what this is a part of. And then time management is my main concern, especially because I'm doing oil paints. All right.